everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me this week, we have a full team. AJ, how are we doing?
Very good, very good. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Loving the new digs. Looking really comfortable there. Mozza, how you doing, buddy?
Ecstatic as always.
And Drew, how you doing, mate?
I'm afraid I can't match Mozza's enthusiasm, so I'm just going to say I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Mozza's really on it for this week, so we're good to go. Obviously, there's no football to talk about from last weekend, but we're recording a bit later than we normally would. But there's been a few things that have come up over the last week and so at the club that I felt like we should all talk about as a team, just to sort of get the general consensus on how everyone's feeling, and try and work out just how we should be reacting as a podcast or a fan base as a whole. Really, the first one is the massive one. It's one that we've spoken about loads in the past as a pod. Everyone knows I'm really passionate about it as an issue that's plaguing football in general, and that's match ticket pricing. Now, last week the Arsenal ticket pricing came out, and we saw some hellish pricing and structure with that. I have done a little thing. I got a bit creative on Microsoft PowerPoint because I was a bit bored, but it was also because I was trying to look at this from a whole perspective of not just how we feel as fans, but why the club are doing what they're doing, to try sort of see if we can choose what side of the fence we sit on, maybe with a little bit more rationale than how I was feeling when the ticket prices came out last week, because I was very ready to record a rant last week, and it almost happened. And it's a good job that sort of had a couple of days to sit back and look at things. So I'm just gonna bring something up on screen, which I appreciate for those of you who are listening on the pod and not watching. You won't see much, but we'll do our best to describe it, just so everyone can see. So we're going to look at match ticket pricing. Is it madness or is it just good business for the football club? We're going to use the Arsenal game coming up on Sunday, the 8th of December, as our example for this, mainly because it's the ticket prices that were most extreme that I've seen so far this season. And to look at it, if you look on the screen right now, you'll see the basic breakdown of the match pricing for the Arsenal game. Ticket prices in the Hammersmith end for an adult are starting from £67, for a junior at 31. In the Putney end, you're looking at £77 for an adult to sit in the Putney end, £41 for a junior. And the breakdown for the Johnny Haynes is a bit more difficult because you have the one zone that is the family zone, but there is not many actual match tickets available to buy in that area, where you're looking at £35 for an adult and £24 for a junior, which is actually an acceptable price difference. The problem there is that it's also £106 to sit in some areas of the Johnny Haynes stand, and £85 for a junior. And Drew, you'll be able to tell us a bit more about that pricing structure for Johnny Haynes in a minute, because obviously you sit there on a match day. And if you look at the Riverside, which is the whole new massive complex, which we know are where the most expensive tickets are, you're looking at the cheapest adult price to sit in the Riverside, £150 to see Fulham play a Premier League football match, which even as a Fulham fan, I will say is absolutely mental. And then you're looking for a junior, you're looking at cheapest price to sit in the new Riverside stand is £70, which is painful to look at. I've also created something with a little bit of help from David Wellington on Blue Sky. Give David a look if you're on Blue Sky. He's great. He's done a bit of quick math to try to sort of help us break down what that ticket pricing means and what it will mean for the club in terms of potential money coming in. I'm just going to read it through. Basically, all of the information that we've got here is not 100%. We know there are some differences with it. It's just off of information that we could find and what we were looking at. We know that on average, the capacity of Craven Cottage at the moment is 28,618, with 2,500 of those being away fans. That fluctuates depending on the team that are coming in, but that tends to be the highest number that we give away at the moment. We have around about 1,500 season tickets, but we believe that maybe this year it might have gone down a little bit because of pressure from the club for it to do so. But breaking that down into the stands and what that means in terms of match day revenue and extra revenue for the club, charging higher prices compared to what we consider to be a fair price to sit in each stand for the game. If we break it down, we look at the Putney end. We know that the Putney end's capacity is 6,742. Match day seat sales is just over 1,600 at 1,668. And the average price for a ticket for the Arsenal game is £75 to sit in the sit in the Putney end. Sorry, we believe a fair price to sit in both ends of the ground is £35 for a match ticket, leaving the extra profit for the club to make in the Putney end alone at £66,720. If you look at the Johnny Haynes stand, we know the capacity is 5,926, with non-season ticket holder match day seats on sale at 1,112. We believe that a fair price for a ticket for sitting in Johnny Haynes is £40. The average Arsenal price is £95, leaving the club with a extra profit if it's sold out at £61,160. And if we look at the Hammersmith end, the capacity at the Hammersmith end is 7,300. Match day seats available is around about 2,780. We believe a fair price to sit there is £35 at the other end of the ground. The average Arsenal price, however, is £75, leaving the extra profit for the club to making it at £111,200. Now the big one, which is obviously the Riverside. The capacity of the Riverside is 8,650. It's not fully open yet. The match day seats on sale are 5,509. We believe a fair price to sit in the Riverside is around about £50 on average, but the average Arsenal price is 140, leaving the total profit extra the club will make on a match day if the game sells out at £500,310. Basically, the whole stadium put together, if the game sells out at the higher prices that Fulham has set the prices out at, Fulham will make a total profit of £739,390 additional to what they would do if they set them at a fair price. Now, looking at that, I want to discuss it now with you guys. Does it matter, in terms of the price influxes and what it is? Is it putting legacy fans over the short-term game of making money? Now, I know that's a lot of information I've just thrown at everyone, and I appreciate that. But looking at it, guys, I wanted to get your view on it. Now, I'm going to go with Drew first because obviously, Drew, you've been going to Fulham a long time, and you would have remembered when going to Fulham meant that you were standing basically in an empty stand by yourself because there was very few people there. Where do you stand on the whole ticket pricing structure? Where do you stand on, what it is? Because I'm trying my best to try sit down the middle and not rant about it as much as I want to. But from a Johnny Haynes point of view, somebody sits there. How do you feel about those prices in your area?
Well, the view from my seat doesn't get better because Arsenal are playing. Yeah, I'm lucky. I say I'm lucky. I mean, I've been sitting where I've been sitting for quite a while now. I basically sit on the halfway line in the Johnny Haynes stand. And it's old, it's uncomfortable, but it's a pretty good view. I think we're kind of barking at the moon here. I mean, I don't see. I mean, the figures you've used, I mean, you can take issue with, but I understand exactly the premise that you're driving at. I mean, what's really the point? When you break down income from income into football or income from clubs in football, match day sales are, for a club like ours, not particularly huge. Everything's dwarfed by TV. I mean, it's difficult for me to get. I wouldn't say irate about this. I find it sickening, quite frankly. What worries me is the not so much the actual pricing, it's going to be the categorization of teams. You can see in time, if they don't increase the ticket prices, they could increase the number of band A games. So you would people, and then the club inevitably will come out and say, "Well, we've frozen season ticket prices." But in effect, what they're doing is they're still catching more people out because they're increasing the number of band A games. I mean, the argument's going to be that if we don't buy those tickets, someone else will, and that's ultimately what they are relying on. That's ultimately what they are relying on. I mean, we're in a nice part of London. They've got a brand new stand. The Premier League is probably as popular as it's ever been. They will sell out, and we all know, if people aren't going to come and see Fulham, they'll come and see Arsenal. I mean, I just look around me where I sit in a Johnny Haynes stand, and I can see the new faces, where what we call legacy fans are no longer there, and it does change the character. It does change the character of the club. It does change the character of the fan base. And yeah, we can romanticize, as you've already pointed out, how old I am, Ash, and what it was like in the old days when literally, and this is how far back I go, you could get into Craven Cottage at half time for free. That's how far back it goes, and obviously progress has to be made. But if you look at the direction of travel with the club, you look at the new Riverside stand, and you look at the lack of money spent elsewhere. You look at the new fans advisory board being favoured over Fulham supporters, the Fulham Supporters Trust. You look at the increase in ticket prices and dynamic ticket pricing, as they call it. It's only going in one direction. I'm completely against it, but I'm one of the lucky ones that's able to afford a season ticket, and I'm still able to afford a season ticket. And I'm not going to sit here and plead poverty, because I know some genuine Fulham fans who've had to give up their season tickets because, as their priorities have changed, as their families have grown, all of a sudden, you're looking at let's be honest, Fulham is historically a family club. That's what we've always been. We're a working class family club. Instead of looking at what could be a 30, 40, 50, 60 quid day out, you have a couple of kids, that suddenly morphs into, well, you're pushing 200, Ash. And you can't, that's just unrealistic. Yeah, AJ's right. I can see AJ saying probably north of that. AJ's probably completely right. Yeah. The thing that really gets me, and Ash, I don't want to divert the conversation, because I know that you rightly fly the banner on this, and I'm absolutely shoulder to shoulder with you. But it's the stuff around the edges, like I say. It's the dynamic ticket pricing per se. It's the increase in the categorization. Oh, we haven't increased the ticket prices. Yeah, but 2 more teams are now category A. Yeah. It's the manufacturing, because that's what it is, the manufacturing of the Fulham Advisory Board. I mean, do me a favour, or the Fans Advisory Board. That's what really annoys me. All so they can create this false narrative, that the fans are behind it, and they're not. And I look at it and I sit there and I think, if I wasn't working, if I was trying to pay for my season ticket when I was retired, I wouldn't be able to afford it. And I have no idea. This might be being ancient. I have no idea what it's going to be, the price of it when I retire. And it's just sad. And it's just sad, especially when you've been going a long time and you're used to the faces and you're used to the people. You know what I mean? You'll be sitting next to people that you've got nothing in common with, from completely different walks of life. But for 90 minutes on a Saturday, there's that bond between you, and it has been for years and years and years and years. And it's going away. But at this moment, I'm just going to sound like an old man, barking at the moon. But yeah, it's I absolutely, like I said, in summation, totally agree, Ash. I totally agree. For the extra, say we're using a figure of 700 grand in the big scheme of things, what's that really going to do? Don't get me wrong. I mean, let's be honest. If anyone offered any four of us, any one of us for 700 grand, we take it. But when you're dealing with tens of millions of pounds, really, and it's from my point of view, like I say, the things that annoy me is the false narrative the club put out. That's what really annoys me, because it's like the fix is in. It's essentially a fait accompli. Oh well, look, we've got a fans advisory board and they're in favour, and anyway. Look, sorry, I've spoken a lot, and you boys have got plenty to say yourselves. So
No, there's plenty more that I have loads to say. I'm waiting to hear what you guys say before I go off on the rant that I've been trying to put off for a week, because an awful lot of what you said bubbles an awful lot on what I'm saying. One of the things you did say there was about, Fulham fans who've had to give up their season tickets and who, have had to find other ways and means to get to games and go to games regularly, which sort of leads me, I think, to Mozza, really. Mozza, you're one of those people that, you've had to be creative in order to make sure that you have a season ticket of some sort. You have one that you share amongst your family in order to make sure that you can access games every single year, but you can't get to every game because of that. When you look at that, is that solely down to ticket pricing? Is it solely down to just the way your social life works, that your personal life works? Like, has ticket prices affected your ability to see Fulham games as someone who is a multi-generational football fan, a Fulham fan?
A little from column A, a little from column B, really. I do share a season ticket with my family, so that's amongst three of us, and that's the first time we've done that ever, but it's the first time I've sort of had a season ticket for a long time now. That is mostly down to the location where I live. I travel from West Sussex, which isn't too long. And also just priorities, getting a little bit older, long in the tooth, family, things like that, as Drew touched on. Things do change in people's lives. However, I'm not going to sit here and plead poverty, but also when Drew said Fulham are traditionally a working class family club, that is very much my roots and very much my lifestyle as well. I don't earn a great deal amount of money. So if money were no object, yes, I would go and, my whole family, we would all go and buy a season ticket each for ourselves so we could all go to the games together. The other side of the coin there is that it ties in quite well with our lifestyles, because we're not all available every Saturday when we're at home to go and see the games. So it's a bit of give and take, but if I could afford a full season ticket for myself, then I would be able to do that. I think the first one I had, can't remember how old I was now, but we'll be going back about 20 years. So when I was like 14, 15, I think I didn't have to pay a full adult price. And I think it may have been around the 500 quid mark. And you did see an increase on that, obviously year on year, and as inflation just naturally goes. So I don't know what you pay now. I don't know if there's a concession, if there's like childs then a juniors, or sorry, might have to refer back to your table, Ash, but I don't know if it is just juniors and adults now. I don't know if that sort of tariff has changed.
Juniors, adults, and then the juniors, adults, then concessions, but that does vary, and that when you look at it and you think about a match day pricing, the average price for the Arsenal game to sit in the Hammersmith end, traditionally where our more vocal legacy fans, tends to be more of us, more working class fans, tends to sit in the Hammersmith end. Not that they don't sit anywhere else around the ground, but it tends to be where they all sit. £75 is an average match price ticket for a game. Be it Arsenal, be it Real Madrid, be it Rotherham, I don't care. It sits so uncomfortably on my shoulders that to think that my daughter's season ticket 3 years ago, when she had one, was £60 for a season ticket. For an average match price to be £75 for an area, let alone one that traditionally are working class fans tend to sit in. And I know that doesn't, as I say, doesn't begrudge where people sit elsewhere on the ground. It is just where they tend to be. It's so uncomfortable for me. As somebody else who's also a fellow Hammersmith defender, how uncomfortable does the thought of a £75 match ticket make you feel?
Yeah, not when you've just put it like that and put it into perspective, not great. And also just to touch again, Drew and then AJ also agreeing, putting his hands up, saying, you're looking at X amount, north of 200 quid. If you've got kids as well, I don't. I travel solo, but I've still got to factor in travel for the day. If you want a bit of grub at the ground as well, I know it's nothing shocking that you might be paying 10, 15, 20 quid for a burger and a couple of beers, but also look at the £2 pints that they were doing before 2 p.m. As we all know, that was just to make sure they avoided all the potential scares that might have happened with fans coming in at 3 o'clock with the new digital ticketing on the app. So that's a whole different kettle of fish. But yeah, I myself, I might be looking at about 60 to 80 quid day out, if not more. And that's how I have to look at it, unfortunately, now. If I want to go and support and see my club, it is a day out. It's a treat. Whereas I remember it not really having to be that. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, really, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes 100%. It makes complete sense. AJ, you're a family man, mate. You have kids. I know that you have an interest in trying to get your kids involved in the Fulham again, and you've done that thing where most of us have done over the last couple of years and realised that it's cheaper to buy away tickets than it is to buy home tickets, and you've taken your kids to a couple of away games to try get them introduced to sort of fall in love with the club like we all have. Looking at as a whole at the ticketing structure and everything like that, as a family man, how do you feel about it? How does it make you feel?
Stop the greed. Quite simply put, it's diabolical from a family perspective. I mean, I'll play devil's advocate for half a second in the 700 grand per match day over 19 games works out to about 15 million quid, give or take, which is not insignificant for a club of our level. It works out to probably one summer transfer. So you could argue that what they're doing is buying one extra player every summer. Not necessarily a good one, but you could argue that. I'm not going to argue that, and that's my half a second done on that topic. I think it's diabolical, the ticket prices. I am a generational Fulham supporter, as are the rest of you. I don't think my kids will be following in that trend, if I'm being completely honest, because we've been completely priced out of season tickets. I bought my eldest son, his first season ticket when they were £60. The following season, it was changed to £350 for his season ticket alone. I couldn't do it. I categorically could not afford it. I tried putting it on finance and thought there's no way I can categorically afford this. I don't make an unreasonable amount of money either. I have a decent salary. I'm not going to go into the details of what I do or how much I make, obviously, but I have a somewhat decent salary, and I still can't afford a season ticket for myself and my eldest son, and God forbid my other two kids when they grow up and get into football as well. It's not happening. And then we go into individual match day prices, and let's say that the only things I could get were the 75 quid for me and the 45 quid for my kids. By the time I've bought me and my 3 kids, that's leaving the missus at home, match day tickets, and then bought us all something to eat, plus travel. I'm looking at maybe nearly £500, £600 in going to a single match day based on those prices. That is not acceptable by any stretch of the imagination. That is a small family holiday. Why is that considered acceptable? I don't care if you're making 700 grand extra a game off of us. You are pricing out actual families for the sake of tourists that are probably there to actually see the away team. It will destroy atmospheres. It will destroy the support of the club. It will destroy the general environment of Fulham Football Club, and you will destroy generational fans. God forbid, 5 years' time we get relegated again. We will end up in a situation like Charlton or Millwall where we've got this stadium that we can't fill. What's the point? Honestly, what is the point? You can argue that 15 million quid is like a substantial amount of money, and of course it is. It's substantial to anyone, including a football club, but it's not worth what you will exchange over the long term in how many years of loyal fan bases you would accrue. People aren't made of money. It's one of the hardest times we've seen in generations financially. And the argument and the club's response to that is, let's hike our prices higher than ever. I understand that they have higher costs, of course. That, like, we don't expect prices to be £20 a match day forever. It's not going to happen. But like, we just can't keep doing this and keep expecting the prices to keep going up. And even if they don't go up and they freeze the prices, as Drew said, they will start changing the categories of games. We sit here and argue constantly. We don't care about playing Arsenal. We don't care about playing Liverpool. We don't care about playing Man United. We care about playing Crystal Palace. We care about playing Brentford. The club's response to that next will be to make all of those games we say we do care about Category A games as well as the games we don't care about. It won't be a swap. It will be, okay, now you've got twice as many Category A games. And then, oh no, there's only one Category A games anymore. And then it's, oh no, there's not a difference between junior and teen prices anymore, which is already gone. It's whether they're free or 16, you're paying the same amount, which I also don't think is right. Because if I take a 3-year-old to a football game, they're probably going to be playing on my phone for the majority of it. Yes, that's a problem with me and my kids and what have you, but they have to bear that in mind. At least I think so. I'm it makes me genuinely upset that my kids probably won't end up being Fulham fans or even potentially football fans, because they're not going to want to sit in front of the TV and watch it with me, and I can't take them to games anymore. I did take my son to an away game to try and see if that helped, and he didn't like the noise output of it, because as we know, away supporters are typically a lot more rowdy, and it's a little bit harder for young individuals to be a part of that crowd. What am I supposed to do at this stage? Give up on football? Not in my lifetime, but maybe in my kids.
Yeah, it's a sad indictment, and I have been sitting on a mega rant about it for a week. You guys know that. You know, as soon as I saw the ticket prices last week, I was in our WhatsApp group. I was literally bubbling at the point of it. I'm trying very hard right now to stay calm and collected about it and talk about it from a rational point of view and not get just an emotional football fan and talk about it. But there are a couple of things that have been mentioned from you guys before I even talk about, you know, my problems with ticket prices. We talk about the Fans Advisory Board. Now, we know that the Fans Advisory Board is something that the commissioner into, you know, sort of looking at football are making every single football club start one up. They all have to start one up. The problem is there's been no control over how those things are started up, and it seems that ours have been set up by basically getting a few people that people know in it, but the majority of people that are in that Fans Advisory Board I've never seen in my life going to Fulham. Never. I'm not saying I know everyone who supports Fulham, but you know, I've gone home and away for 30 years. I know a lot of faces, and I don't know many of them, and that worries me. I also know that from some insider information that people that have been picked have basically been picked because of the positions they hold in the companies they work for, not necessarily for them being Fulham fans, and that worries me. Because you know they live a life that's slightly different and they will go with the narrative that the club wants because they understand where the club are coming from when it comes to making money. I have a massive issue with a lot of stuff that's come out around ticket pricing. For those of you who know me, have seen this show, will know I go to football every single week with a group of cousins and my brother. We also had a season ticket for my daughter up until a couple of years ago, but we were priced out of being able to afford that because she didn't come to every single game. Obviously, didn't come to midweek games. Games would often get moved. We've had that rant about that over the last couple of weeks, which meant that the game wasn't on a Saturday at 3:00. She pretty much couldn't come for varying reasons. Extracurricular activities and stuff like that. So we didn't renew, and we lost that. I now have a son who is 4, who's interested in maybe coming to a game, and the thought of trying to find a game where I can buy a ticket for us to go and it not cost me 45 quid to bring a 4-year-old just to see if he's interested, to see if he enjoys it, is sickening. But it also brings the whole problem up of, our legacy and, where do those fans come from? AJ, you said it yourself. If the club get relegated, let's not say if, when the club get relegated again, because it will happen. It's the nature of football. It's what it is. We will go back to seeing what we saw the first time we were relegated from the Premier League, and we had no fans turning up to midweek games because no one wanted to watch mediocre Championship football when who's a tourist when Chelsea are down the road, and that is as simple as that. And we saw the pressures of that, and it's disgusting. And the club literally playing with fire every single time they do this, where they raise ticket prices and they price more and more of us out, and more of us can't go, and then they lose that. Another thing that Drew talked about, that he said about category games and where they go. Now, there's been a big discussion last year between those who are in the Fulham Supporters Trust about the club not actually releasing the category games for categories. Now, I don't know if any of you remember, but about 5 or 6 years ago, when you used to get your season ticket pamphlet, there used to be a breakdown of what game was what category, gold, silver, bronze, whatever it was, and at the beginning of the season who fell into that. Anyone aware of that for now? Because they've not released it this year. They didn't release it last year, and they didn't release it the year before. And the club basically are making it up as they go along with that. When you look at dynamic ticket pricing, I would argue that Brentford and Arsenal probably, for us, should be in the same category because of the meanings of the game to us as a fan base. The club took the absolute biscuit and charged £100 for Brentford at home on a Monday night, meaning that it didn't sell out, meaning that they were advertising the game 2 weeks beforehand up until match day on the underground, in the metro, literally everywhere they could, trying to sell tickets. If we cannot sell out a derby that important to us as a fan base, right, you've got to look at the ticket pricing. The dynamic ticket pricing isn't actually working. We've had one game this season, which is the Wolves game coming up this Saturday, where the season ticket exchange is actually opened because the game has sold out with enough time frame before the game comes up. That says to me the dynamic ticket structure that the club are using is not working. You're charging £150 for somebody to watch a game of football, whether it's Arsenal or whatever, is an absolute disgrace. I don't care if it's in a brand spanking new ground, right? If you're looking at an average ticket price for the Hammersmith for £75, right, where if I want to go to the toilet after half an hour into the game, I have to wear waders, right? That is an absolute disgrace. You look at us as fans and you go, I, as a Fulham fan, my job has always been to not only love the club and represent the club as much as I can, but to try and bring others in to do so, right? And I'll use an example of my brother, Bradley. Anyone who knows my brother Brad, he's a home and away season ticket holder. He goes every single game that he can to watch Fulham play. Brad, naturally, probably should have been a Chelsea fan. His dad is a Chelsea fan. I brought him in to be a Fulham fan when they used to do kids for £1, kids for £5 ticket. And it was using those ticket prices, that ticket structure, that incentive to bring fans in, that meant he got hooked on coming to Fulham, and he fell in love with Fulham and Fulham are his team. That initiative is gone now. We're not going to see that again. We can see it by that ticket pricing. It is gone. It is a disgrace. again, trying to stay calm as we talk about this. It's not easy. I understand the club have got to look at, we've got to make some money, and you worked it out as £15 million they'll make by charging these extra prices. If this was the average ticket price throughout the season, that is nowhere near what we paid Anthony Knockaert. That is nowhere near what we paid Anthony Knockaert to be nowhere near the club for 2 years because they didn't want to pay him off. Right? So it's an absolutely nominal sum for the club and the way it's run. If the club ran itself properly, got the money for youth players that it got that it should get, got players on wages that they should get, sold wisely, bought wisely, we wouldn't even be discussing it because they messed that up way more than they messed this up. I read somewhere a couple of weeks ago that Alistair Mack, who everyone knows I'm not a fan of, I think he's literally the scourge of the football club and is one of the main reasons why we keep having these debates about whether or not the club actually care about us or not. He was told by somebody who supports the club that we are a type of fan base that when we get on aeroplanes, we turn left, we don't turn right. And I will categorically say right now, that is the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard. Right? The majority of Fulham fans are generational, working class Fulham fans. My family are from Putney. They lived in Putney for generations before they were gentrified out and ended up moving to Ellsfield in Wandsworth, where they've been gentrified out again, and I now live in Croydon. Right? It doesn't stop my generational love for the football club. It doesn't stop my generational love for wanting to be a Fulham fan. But what it does do is show that the majority of Fulham fans who are working class Fulham fans may not necessarily live in the surrounding area of the football club. So looking at how nice and well the surrounding area is as a justification for the prices that they charge for tickets is a moot point and disgusting. I don't want to run about it too much. We've been going on for 40 minutes about ticket prices, and I know we don't like to make these episodes this long, but the club wholly, we look at it, and the question was, is it correct? Is it right? It's completely wrong, and I think every single one of us can agree that it's completely wrong and disgusting, the ticket structure they take, because it feels like they're making it up as they go along, and it feels like every single time the club get the on-field product correct, and I hate using that word product when we talk about it, but it's what it is. And Marco's doing an absolutely amazing job with the team so far this season. They do everything they can to take that will that the club have built up and stick 2 fingers up at us and go, you know what, you don't matter, and here's proof you don't matter. It's disgusting. I hate it, and it's every reason why most of us are falling out of love with football. Not Fulham. I love Fulham, but modern football is something that we're all falling out of love with rapidly, I feel, and this is part of it. I don't want to keep myself about it. Does any of you guys have anything you want to add on the ticket pricing structure, the ticket pricing at all, without going too painful about it?
I just one point. It ties into the point you made about Silva. Right now, Silva, and I've gone on record saying this in previous pods, he's the biggest asset at Fulham. Forget about the players. He's the biggest asset Fulham have. And he has provided McIntosh and the Khans a huge amount of cover because there's so much goodwill. The direction of travel has been evident for us for quite a while. And the points I was making about the fan advisory board being stuffed with patsies and the elasticity when it comes to the categorization of games is a symptom of an underlying ethos, which is very prevalent in American sports. It's all about new stadiums. It's all about executive boxes. It's all about ticket exchanges for tickets. You try and get a ticket to an NFL game, you're easily paying $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, even $1,000. And that's how they view things. Fans are not fans; they're customers. They're customers, and I endorse everything you've said, Ash. I absolutely do. But ironically enough, it is Silva that is giving the club the cover to be able to implement what they're doing. Because as you've already pointed out, I think AJ said this, you take away Silva, any of us confident, yeah, we would be where we were. Because I'm not, you know, and I mean, we can go back through the recent history of managers under the Khans. I was a big Joker fan. I love Djukanovic. And we have seen some of the disasters that they've appointed. Yeah. While they've got Silva, they are going to make hay while the sun shines. I'm convinced of it. Absolutely convinced of it. You notice you only see Tony Khan now when the team's winning. Completely changed his profile in relation to Fulham. Very much put Silva front and centre because he's effectively a human shield. But anyway, sorry, I'm not going to go on. I apologise, boys.
No, I appreciate that. It as a whole, and it's a discussion we could have for hours and hours. Again, I don't want to bore people that are listening or watching. I don't want to bore us talking about it. I will only sum it up myself by saying, you know, if you are someone who works at the football club and you can hear how fans are feeling, you're not taking the fans' feelings or the fans' warnings into heed that, you know, what you were doing may well be a short-term gain in terms of a few extra quid coming in. These are not gains that you wouldn't make if you just ran the academy properly and sold players properly and bought players properly and didn't give players contracts they didn't deserve. But you are risking the future of the club in the sense of if we got relegated, if we did a Charlton right now, we got relegated and got relegated again, we'd be back to having 4,000 fans at the football stadium, not because we only have 4,000 fans, but because those of us who could come would have been priced out of coming and therefore won't want to come back because they'll have a problem with it. And it is a worrying factor. And we did this when we went down first time. It's almost like the second season we were down, the club realised, wait a minute, we need to start treating the fans with a bit more respect because they're the reason why we actually sell out match days, not tourists. And then as soon as we got promoted again, it was two fingers up the fans and, oh, where are those tourists and where's that tourist money? Because that's what we want. And it's worrying and it's disgusting. Lads, again, I'm not going to keep going on about it, but we'll end it there. We'll end the show there. If you're watching this and you want to share it, obviously we hope people like to subscribe to the show. Please do comment and let us know your experiences around match tickets and what it's meant for you as a fan. You know, do that on YouTube, do that on our socials, do that on Twitter, do that on Blue Sky, which we are now on. You know, let us know your experiences of why ticket prices are affecting you as a fan and how they're stopping you from being the fan that you want to be. Because I know that there's a real push between the podcast community of Fulham, you know, the many podcasts that we have to, you know, sit back as a whole and go, you know, this is the fans' experience. Not what we're being told, not the smoke and mirrors we're being led to believe, but this is actually what's going on and we want to share that. So please do share that with us. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Thanks, AJ. Thanks, Mozza. Thanks, Drew, for joining me. I know this one was a bit of a somber one, a bit of a moan up because there was no football to talk about, but it's a topic that I thought we had to all put our view on because it's so important, integral, to, you know, the future of the club and us as a fan base. Lads, we're going to be obviously coming back later on in the week to review the Wolves game. We'll have a special guest on for that episode, a special panelist for that episode. Other than that, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for joining me. I know it's been a bit of a somber one, but we'll go from there. See you all later on in the week for the Wolves review. Come on, you Whites.